Good morning, good afternoon, good whatever time of day it is for you. My name is Justin KewlImp, and a whole host of names you've always heard me joke about but never really say. First up, I want to point out that we are only going to be discussing builds today. We will not be looking into the actual gameplay. I apologize for that. Yes, I know how manipulative it is. I am self-aware that I'm an asshole for this. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and go over not just an individual build today, we're going over a team build. Giving each person a role, and they are to follow those roles. If you happen to miss this, I will be uploading it to YouTube a little bit later on, along with this. Give you a little background track here, which is again Electro Swing, because I dig that music. Sorry. Had to dance just a little bit. So with that little introduction out of the way, we are going to build our team. It's going to have 4 of each of the individual Vault Hunters. Each one with a specific role. First off, we have Flak. Flak is our healer. Now, what you're going to notice first off is I did take a capstone. In some builds like this, you may not want to do that because then we're not looking at the utility of the rest of everything. So first off, wow, this morning, killing me. We are going to be using Gamma Burst. Gamma Burst along with Burst Aid. Now, this is part of the main part, the big portion of the build, because we're going to use this to keep everyone alive. We're using the Iridian Skag, and that's to help out our Amara and our Zane, who are going to be our Wrecking Balls of DPS. And what we built up is basically a lot of heal over time. And I've showed this build before, so I'm not going to go entirely into all the details on why I took 1 point there, 1 point there. But it comes off of here. And it comes a lot out of the Stalker tree because we have health regeneration here. And with all my BFFs, we are pushing that healing, that constant healing out to our teammates. And whenever we get into a desperate situation, what we do is we then go ahead and we drop in the Gamma Burst near everyone as quickly as possible. And this is a limited form of immortality based on what I can tell. At this time, I don't know of anything that can out DPS 20% of your maximum health regenerated per second. And that's over the course of 20 seconds. So it's a really powerful like early build for Flak, or well, late game build for Flak, as strictly a teammate. Now, the second person in this build matters too, because this is support number 1. Flak is support in this build because he's straight up a healer. Mose is support number 2, and that may sound odd to some people, but she is behaving as support. So, it's all about the nukes here. So, with this build, we're going to build a splash damage build. If you haven't seen a splash damage build, it looks a little something like this. Incinerate damage is something that ends up coming up in a lot of splash builds. But we're focused on the cross promotion here. And being able to just toss out grenades like they're nothing when we're outside the bear. But we want these right here. The hammer down protocol. And we want it because of the radiation damage. The radiation damage is meant to help build up Amara and Zane's damage when they go in and they start attacking, of course. And then you have things like short fuse. And I've shown this build off before. It's my basic boomy boom build. Lots of explosions, lots of damage going out. But her point isn't damage. It's to get to these nukes and to keep those nukes on large groups of enemy, which is why we pick up the Iridian Skag. Because this is going to be our singularity to pull everyone into that one area. Drop in a nuke. As the nuke begins to cool down, you drop in the second nuke and you just flip them back and forth. Now, if you want to go a different route with this, one side nuke, and the other side target softening. Because everything hit by that takes increased damage. So it's another form of that nuke doing its business and keeping them in check. And then everything else is just a standard build, sadly. The purpose of it is different than how it's intended. That's the big thing. Because we're not looking to kill the majority of the targets. She's just looking to soften them up. By softening them up, all of a sudden we have this big, huge open field of damage just pouring in. Now, I kind of did these two backwards. But Zane's our next person. Zane is our AoE DPS. And he has a cryo focus. So we're going to see a lot of the same skills we see in Old Man Coles and Cool, Calm, Collected builds. Mainly we want to get down to Cool, Calm, Collected. Or Calm, Cool, Collected, whatever. And we're going to pick up our Frozen and Kill Skill Novas along the way as well. Thank you for the follow, J-Mac. The next thing we're going to see is our double agent tree. And that's because we're going to use this to pump out our AoE damage. So, this is the scenario. Flak has sucked everybody into one area. Bail! Mose drops in, nukes them. They're radiated. And at that moment, they're taking more damage. He puts in his clone right in the middle of them. And he switches with the clone. Big pulse out. Switches with the clone again. Another pulse out. And you just go right back and forth switching out that clone. And the idea is to take a lot of those big mobs and reduce them down to a couple of stragglers. So this is kind of just your standard Old Man Cold build. Now, you can make some adjustments to it if you don't want to go this route. Or if you just want to get down to this skill and not have the second skill to go with it. I don't think any of the skills really go with the design of this build. So you could take, let's see, 8 points here. If you wanted to go clone instead, just for the cryo weapons, and then maybe switch it over to radiation beam to help out a little bit more with movement speed. Oh, my music stopped. So it depends on how you want to do this. There's a lot of variety in them, but however, what I'm going to do, it's my team build, is the Cryo Nova pumping it out. Get them something like, I think it's the Femme Fatale, which is the cold SMG from the pre-sequel. Maybe a phaser or something like that. And he's constantly putting out this frozen damage to people, which will be constantly triggering Cool Calm Collected. And right there, that's the big reason why. There's all the rest of the damage, because whenever we're doing this big AoE attacks, we're just pumping out damage over and over and over again. Now, I think this 11 damage will scale. I believe they've said that. So, we move on to our final character in this. I expect this to take a lot longer, by the way. We're moving over to Amara. Now, first off, I don't have... Oh, I forgot about that. Again, we wanted more of everything grouped up together. If you're about to go fight a boss, switch it out for lifesteal. Nope, wrong one. Lifesteal. But coming back over here, first off, I want to point out we are going to be using the Eternal Fist. Because hopefully things won't be living that long with Amara. Okay. Now, we're going to be making kind of a little bit of a tanky build here. But mostly we're focused on her and this ability here. Blitz. She is single target, fuck you up damage. So, we're going to increase our bonus damage for dealt, for how close we are. Now, this only works on weapons. We're going to be using a lot of probably Malawan shotguns with her. Let's be honest. She's an elementalist. That's her job. So, we take 1 point here, 1 point here, just to go ahead and, in case we have a class mod that improves one of those, that's the reason why. Also to get down to the next tier, we're going to take, Helping Hands. I think that's the best for this area, for this group, because nothing else here really indicates more melee damage. So I like it as a... I've just got into a big group of enemies and bam, bam, bam. Of course, we're going to increase our melee damage, and then we need to find 4 points to put elsewhere. I put 1 stack into mindfulness. And I went ahead and said, let's increase team movement speed. Because Zane, I kind of breezed past it, does have the quicker you move, the more gun damage you do. Maximum health and elemental resistance, of course. We wanted to get that because she's going to be up close and personal with everybody. And then the rest of it, we just want to get down to Blitz. And the reason we want Blitz is because we're going to be doing a ton of cryo damage from Zane. And she is going to be running around blitzing everything. Hopefully killing 1 enemy every single time. That's assuming Zane's AoE pulses aren't killing them quicker. Now for her, we just want to get down to the Eternal Fist. So I took 5 points in Infusion. I took 5 points into the Tempest, because I think that is going to be very important to have for her. Just in case not everyone's shield is diminished already. Her melee damage and her increased melee damage, but her melee damage is converted to her action skill. And then I took this because we're going to be grasping people, and additional gun damage from your allies is a good thing to have. And of course the Eternal Fist is basically, I grab you, I'm done killing you, I grab you, I'm done killing you, so forth and so on. So this is going to put in its work. And then I decided we needed to get down to at least this row, because we wanted the aspect of Soul Sap. You could go with this, with Stillfulness of Mind, but I don't think it would work as well as Soul Sap or Allure. And of course you'll want to switch those out depending on what you're fighting and what's going on with it. And then action skill cooldown rate. So we just want to pump up that cooldown rate to make it a little bit faster to get back in here. Now, if you didn't want to get Dread here, you could come over here and get this. So the life steal would be 20% more life steal if we took Stillness of Mind or Allure. We're looking... Yeah, sure, why not? I don't know if my bot is set up to block it. It shouldn't be. By the way, I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, and anyone on YouTube watching, I don't have my chat listed here, but a couple people have been talking. So we see a lot of synergy amongst the different groups here. And just real quick, because I know I've only been doing this for like 15 minutes. First off, we have Flak, our healer, using Gamma Burst to heal as a direct healing. And then we have a bunch of passive regenerations going on constantly. Now, I've done the math on this before. I think it comes out to like 5% regularly, and then if you're moving, it goes up to like 6.4 or something like that. But you have a constant regeneration going on with Flak and healing people. Mose is not our DPS, but she is our wounder. She is our weakener. She will be pumping out radiation damage from her rocket pods. And again, I stress that depending on how you want to build this. You're welcome, man. So from here, we see that we can target soften. We can see that we can use hammer down protocol. Both of these will work. However, because we want to use Flak to group everything up with the Iridian Skag, I suggest a nuke over the other one. And of course, the rest of it is just a standard AoE build. So we see a lot of increases in fuel and a lot of nade builds here. Zane is our Cryo Beast, and he's just going to be doing massive AoE. In this group, Amara is basically Brick, utilizing Blitz to get from person to person and do a lot of heavy single target damage. But for Zane acts as our AoE build, using double agent, cryoing back and forth and just keeping that Cryo Nova going. Trying to get as many of those people down in HP as possible. Just bam, 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 bam. And then, because we have a lot of things from other people to increase his movement speed, we took Violent Momentum. So, a lot quicker when he's is unable to just pump out the cryo damage. Again, if you want to switch that up a little bit, you can go with the Winter's Drone instead. But I think it lacks the utility of just being able to, on command, drop in that those Cryo Novas. And then Amara, who, like Fade said in the chat, is basically Brick. And it's all about this skill here. Wow, I can't talk today. Utilizing Find Your Center and Illuminated Fist to tear through just everything that exists. And that's my team build. That's how, if I could have a highly optimized team. Now, weapons are something that I can't really discuss yet because we're still at that pre-release stage on what people should be using. And I think that's an important thing to note. So, we might find some really incredible. Thank you for the follow, Bone Crusher. I appreciate it. With not knowing what's going on with the weapons, this means some of this may still be in flux. So, let's say we find out which build do you think is going to be the best for solo proving grounds. That is going to be... Let me pull it up. Solo Proving Grounds, I think, is going to be hands down Flak. And that is because we want that. Reduction. Hold on, let me get the build set up. Now, mind you, this is a little bit of my own personal subjectivity here. Well, okay. Let's take out my subjectivity. I think this is going to be roughly the best build that people are going to put together. Where is it? Pet, I think for the best build would probably be the Jabber, the base Jabber. But this is probably going to be the optimum build. Now, the reason why is with the crit damage being able to be done from torch shotguns in the sticky mode and Megavore proccing it with the fade away with everything else. We've seen the footage of how quickly that build of, and we're not even talking about the second tree. We're talking primary tree here. Just the primary hunter tree. It was either K6 or Jolts who attached 3 rounds to the Skagger Survival and took him completely out of the first phase. Because the Skagger Survival, if you didn't see it, has 2 phases. First element, second element. And whenever he reloaded that shotgun and all those mini grenades went off, it just 0. Began to rebuild. He started attaching more. Dead. So, like using the one that we have seen, there's no question to me. Now, you might be able to do different things with like Moze or Amara, but for solo Proving Grounds, I think it's going to be Flak. And that's only because he has the Megavore proccing. Thank you for the follow, Jail Ninja. Jolly Ninja? Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Base Jabber is for the barrels. Although this would help with your crit damage, this is going to help your overall damage. Because every time you have the reload, you're able to do more radiation damage, which weakens your enemies more. So keeping them weak and getting hit it means 1-shot reload instead of 2-shot reloads. Because I think torch shotguns are going to break the game. I think he's going to be the boss farmer. Because based off of everything else, that right there is going to be the Megavore changes everything. So my question becomes, and I personally can't wait to test this myself, does it affect action skills? Because if it's affecting action skills, then on other abilities, so let's not use this build as an example. Let's go with my build, which is a Gamma Burst build. Does Gamma Burst has a chance to crit? I mean, imagine dropping in that crit and just bam. That goes from, mind you, this is base damage before any levels. It begins out at 56 points of damage. And if that crits for 200% damage or even 50% more DPS, we're looking at a lot of damage. And that's going into an area effect, not an individual. Or, when it does crit, it only crits based off of the individual monster. And still, we're looking at a lot of extra damage going out. By the way, I've spent a lot of time looking at these screens and just going, what can I build? It's how I came up with this flak here before anyone else had put out a video on it. It's because I saw this tree and then I saw all my BFFs. I'm like, alright, that's something I can work with. Thank you, Crash, for the follow. I appreciate it so much. And everyone who's followed today, thank you. I really appreciate that. It makes me feel awesome. And if you like the music real quick, Yeah, I've seen that. I'm waiting to see what all of it looks like, and I'll be honest, I think it's going to be amazing. But like this build, there's a lot you can do with it. Like a lot of people, this is not a complaint, but more of a criticism. A lot of people are trying to build the same things. Hold on one second. Thank you, Crash. But when we take a look at this, there's more here. So Flak kind of has, it's not anywhere near optimized build. Let me point that out real quick. This is not an optimized build. Where is it? This was me goofing around a few days ago. So I'll apologize. This isn't a real hard in there build. This is a really stupid build. And was there any over here? Okay. Maybe we can't get to it. Okay. So this is a kill skill build. I have not seen anyone actually, besides myself, put this out. So this is basically Zane Flak's version of a kill skill build. So we have hunter skill, hunter kill skill, or hunter skill, kill skills. We need an extra. I like the extra point here. And I love Lick the Wounds, by the way. This is going to be an understated hero. And to get down to here for some health regeneration and rage and recover duration. This one is one we could probably don't have to pick up. But things like that, it's an interesting build. And I haven't seen any other videos on it. Moe's, for instance. Oh, I don't need to move over. This right here, this build here, although we have her putting out a lot of damage, more importantly, she's weakening the enemies for our teammates to do the damage. And because she's pumping out all that radiation damage, she's pumping out all that I don't want you to be alive damage. Zane and Amara in this team build, because this isn't just an individual build I wanted to do today. I want to do a team build. And because of that, she's sitting there running through, wrecking everything in melee combat. Zane is flipping back and forth with his clone doing cryo damage, and with calm, cool, and collected, we're just keeping it up. Action skill cooldown, almost an infinite way of keeping his clone up during combat, and there is nothing that they can do because we have a lot of damage that's going out. And that's not to mention, once we actually get some cryo weapons, like some good cryo weapons, like maybe even like a cryo infinity, like just for that, a cryo infinity, that as the example, and then all of these skills build into that. And while he's sitting there pumping out all that AoE, he's bringing down their health real quick. She drops in with this, with 100% and 175% of melee damage, and then 275% damage. Most everything should just be nuked at this point. And I think that's an amazing build. For which build? For healer? I went with the Radiant Skag. I think it has the most utility with what the rest of the team is doing, because you're going to use the Radiant Skag to group everybody up. Mo's is gonna weaken it with the nuke and the target softening. Zane's gonna burst out all that AoE frozen goodness, and she's gonna be running around punching everything. And what I was saying for her is if you don't need lifesteal for some reason, you do have other options like Glamour. Glamour. We have Revelation options open to us. We have Stillness of Mind, which we don't really need because we already have Grasped Enemies. And even Allure. So if she's off by herself, she can still group enemies up and just run through them like a hot knife through butter. And it's something that's really interesting to see. If I were to go with an alternative answer for that, though, I would go with the Beefcake Gunsleeper Jab. You can tell I'm still getting used to this. I would go with the Gunslinger Jabber. The rocket launcher would help out a lot by just weakening those guys even more. But again, his point isn't to do damage. I think having to switch to clone to move to the... Well, no, the idea is... Okay, so... Flak has gotten everybody into one group. What you're doing is you're running over and you're creating the clone where you want it to be. Unless it, since I haven't... There's been so much Zane gameplay, I guess I've forgotten to go back and take a look at it. But you might have to run back. I'll take your word on that one, Fade. And then you're just bouncing back and forth. You want to keep the Zane and his clone right in the same area so they can keep pumping out that Cryo Frost Novas. I keep going back to Frost Nova because that's how I first think of it. It's not as a... I don't think of it as a cryo. I think of it as frost damage. Like, wow. And even Mose is going to be pumping out some damage. I played Classic WoW back in the day, and I've actually been playing a little bit of it today. But in this case, we see that we can... The synergies that are built into this game are incredible. It's just a matter of getting it done. More than that, I think a lot of the builds that we've seen coming out are... I don't think this is the right word, because you have a lot of people putting out videos. Struck TFL or LTF or something like that. Cookski, even Baru's put out a video or two about it. Dantix has put out a couple of videos for it. So if you take a look at the Borderlands 3 builds or skills, you'll find a lot of videos going over a lot of the same builds. I wanted to do something a little bit different today, but like the healing flak, I published that weeks ago. But let's go ahead and check out. When did I put that out? Oh man, that screen's so bright. Like I'm all lit up now. So let's see. Yeah, I published that back on the 13th. That was like 2 weeks ago. Now, this video is a little bit more explaining than what I've been doing. I've just been kind of going, no script. By the way, I'm a very scripted person on my... I do my best to be scripted on my videos. But I think we're going to see a lot more once we start getting into the game and start seeing some of that in-game loot. Like, for instance, hypothetical here. You have a class mod that suddenly bumps up all my BFFs. So, because I have a spare... Oops. So, all my BFFs starts at 17%, jumps up to 33, hits 50. Now, 2 more levels of that at 1717 is 34. We're looking at 84% of Flack's health regeneration is passed on to his teammates. They're... How high can we get it again? So, right now, let me pull up my calculator because I like to do this with the calculator. So we have 1.5 here. We're going to leave the moving off for now. That is an additional one. So we're going to pass that for the moment. 2%. Oh, where is it? There's more here. Oh, they changed it. That's why. Okay, this got changed over. So we're looking at 11.5%. And while moving, 12.4% after a kill, total health regeneration. That's a lot of health coming back in on every single second. He's already going to be hard to kill. But if we get all my BFFs up to 84%, no, 0.84. We're looking at 10% of your allies' health constantly regenerating. So if, let's say our blitzer here gets up and she's taking a lot of damage, yeah, she's having some health come back in on her own. But now she also has that additional regeneration from Flak. So the synergy here, the builds that we can build around this is amazing. My biggest problem is when I was going through this, I was trying to find more supportive roles for Zane and Amara, but I really couldn't find them. Maybe. But that's kind of a standard thing, though. Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel had blanks as well. To plug my own channel, I recently did Border Quest, wherein I play through all the games that have DLC that has an actual story to them. Sorry, couldn't help myself. I had to do that announcer voice. But his role, I couldn't find one that was super heavy for support. So he helps out with the shield mod here. Because allies know the barrier. Let's say he has a sham. We're absorbing bullets. We're taking less damage. And that's the closest I can get Zane to be a support role. In Amara, I couldn't find anything that really helps out with Teen besides this kill skill here. But who knows? Maybe with mods and artifacts, we're going to have such a change in the character. Yeah. I think it was Dantic's video. Dantic's published a lot of videos on it. K6 and Jolts have not published that many in-game stuff. Only the Proving Ground stuff. And right now they're running through their series that they're playing together right now. But yeah, the Blitz is going to be powerful. And that's the reason when I was going through and making this team build she was never not going to be the melee damage person. But yeah, overall, I think we're going to see a lot of just different abilities here that can work out. And something to point out with Amara, I kind of forgot about this. We want to take 5 points in at least each tree, no matter what you do. That way you can pick up the 2 different elements. The corrosive and the fire. If we know we're going to be going into... let's use Promethea as an example. At the very beginning, once we get to the warehouse, we have a lot of bots. We can go ahead and switch over to Black Tiger when we need to. And then once we get rid of all the bots by singling them out and killing them, we can switch over to Incendiary again. To Soulfire. The Struck TLF, he asked me a lot of questions about that. And I think this is going to be really powerful here. I'm sure if I ever had enough friends to play the game with, we'd be able to experiment further. But I ain't got that many friends. And the only way I can get people on my channel right now is to be the only person streaming in a game that's unreleased. So, tells you where I am as a streamer. But I see this as there being a lot of experimentation here. A lot of... you're the best. Thank you. Thank you for following. I see there being a lot of experimentation. And even with Flak can go to a... If we change this up even a little bit, he can become the resident nuker. But then we don't have those solid heals coming in. But with the way he's built either way, we can still have the heals coming in. Yeah, go ahead and link it again, man. Mose definitely has a lot of viability. For different things she can do. If we took her away from the role of being a support role and back into straight DPS, I would end up going down bottomless mags. And that's just so she never has to stop firing. And of course I had a build up like that up on my YouTube channel. Please don't be afraid to check it out. Thank you for following, Fade. And we see... I wish I would see more videos where people did something different. But right now, without seeing those class mods, without seeing the in-game loop, the artifacts, we don't have an answer on how much is going to be radically changed. Think about Salvador with the Norfleets. The Norfleet changes that build so much. Well, changes a lot of it, but you have a greater focus onto the dual building as long as possible. Gauge with a conference call. You can do a lot with that build, but you have to spec into Anarchy for it. That was the only real viable in-game build, but you know what? Whatever. But, do you guys have any builds you would want to see? Since I have so many people in here wondering about builds and thoughts about builds. Anything you guys want to see? Yeah, and experimental builds. I want to see... I am a strong proponent of always having a capstone. But there are some builds I don't think needs them. I had made, I think it was a Zane, that only dipped into the top half of each build. And it's something that's really interesting when you think about it, is that Zane can be built without a single capstone. I'm going with flak, and my build is going to be similar as this. Sorry, let me pump it out real quick. Oh no, that's right, I changed it up. Give me just a second. With the recent information, and we were talking about this earlier, about the information coming out from... Oh, nope, that's not what I wanted. Sorry. Well, that's the good thing about this build. This build can kind of go both ways. It's not as supportive as this flak here, because this is a healing flak. But this one... Regeneration. Defenses. Yup. And this build, flak, Moze, Zane, Amara, for me. But this build, so even before K6 and Jolts put out their video about the Torque shotguns and Megavore, I was already planning on using Torque shotguns. I just love how they melt things. So I gotta learn how to aim with shotguns again. However, it caused me to change 5 points in my build. I began out going down to dominance because I thought the domination would be a lot better. But with that information coming through, changed 5 points over so I have Megavore. Because 20% chance for all of those little micro grenades to go off at the same when they go off. Hell yeah! Melted. And I think that would be pretty damn awesome, to be honest. Just watch things melt. And depending on how you want to do it, for this, I would definitely go with the reload speed. And that's because with the shotgun I intend to use, I can just crack open a new one real quick and keep that thing going as fast as I can. And because I have Megavore, a lot of things are going to be critting. But when I start out, I'm going to get 5 points into here first. With Moze, I don't think she's going to be a challenge solo. I think she'll be gear dependent a little bit. But that's all depend on how you build her out. I'd say the first 10 levels is going to be the hardest for her. But that's based off what I've seen of the gameplay. It shouldn't be so hard it's insurmountable. But that's because there's nothing here that really pumps out the metric tons worth of damage. That's my only thing about Moze. I'm more worried about her early game. As soon as we start getting into a whole bunch of matching weapons, you can have match set here and just almost, what is it, the stacking bonus to magazine size? Come on. That's going to be awesome. And it all depends on what build you want to use for Moze. I think that mid-game, maybe there might be a hump for her, but I don't think it's going to be so big it's insurmountable. At least not as far as needing to farm for her. I need to get some more water. I will be right back. Give me about 30-45 seconds, maybe a minute. Yeah, and her Iron Bear is where it's going to all be at. It's a matter of getting the Iron Bear where you want it. So, it all depends on what Iron Bear you want to use. I should have all of my points saved up now. I mean, there's a lot that you can do with Iron Bear, and for my first build, my first 30 points or so, let's use, for me, this is how I intend to build her out for the first few points. That's my first 29 points. There is a Reddit post. That post there has a comprehensive list of all the VIP codes, what kind of code they are, and if they're still valid. So a lot of the big boy creator codes like Broman and them, they're no longer valid. But a lot of the like email codes are. Let me see. My Borderlands, mine should be complete. If not, I'm gonna throw a hissy fit on it did not go through. Fuck you, game. Alright. Means I gotta throw a little bit of a fit here. Because I had 7 before I started this process yesterday. Yeah, so I'm at 7 of 8, and I should be at 8 of 8 because I spent to buy the what did I buy yesterday? The Absolute Zero. But if they pop my points, but it didn't give me the didn't give me the credit for it. Yeah. Seriously, if I lose my points on that, I'm gonna be upset. Like no joke, because that's a lot of points to lose. Well, thank you for that, Diminutive. I better get my points, man. I want that. I'm not even a fan of Malawan in Borderlands 3. But I want the legendary gun. And something that might be interesting to actually have into the game. It's a small feature, but a feature that'd be cool to see is an actual tracker for all the legendary weapons you picked up. Kind of like Destiny 2 has, where you can see all the different weapons you've picked up. That would be nice. That way, when the first what is it called? The first hunt comes around for Borderlands 3. Hi, Tentacled. I don't care about the skins. I'll be honest. I'm not a